Does God suffer? Welcome to Sort of Leben. Now, in a recent debate on Jubilee, an argument was presented by Jacob Hansen that we have to go through this realm of injustice and mortality so we can learn. It's God sending us into this world like a parent sending their child out into the world of scraped knees and school bullies and failed math tests in order to give them the experience they need to grow, rather than just keeping a child home 24/7 or protecting them from every harm.
The Latter-day Saint conception of God is that God actually, his purpose is to make us become as he is. Suffering is part of the inherent nature of the world as a fallen world, okay? Let me break it down like this.
Sure.
So if I have a child and I want my child to grow up to become like me, my child needs to go out of my house. He needs to go into the lone and dreary world. And if that is the case, that means that there's going to be some level of separation between me and him. He's in the world of injustice.
The atheist Alex O'Connor didn't buy that analogy. He said, yes, but wanting your child to experience suffering only makes sense because when they're adults, they'll be in an imperfect world, so they'll need to learn to have a thick skin. Why not just skip the suffering part? He said it's like, why do you need to allow beings to suffer if you're able to and going to take it all away eventually? A good and an all-powerful God could and would do that.
It's a world that is unfair.
Why is that world unjust and unfair? Because I understand what you're saying. In this analogy, you want your child to become like you. And what that's going to involve is encountering suffering, developing as a person, getting thicker skin. But the only reason that you want that for your child is because they're going to live in a world where they're going to have to encounter that, and you want them to be better at dealing with that, right? If you were given the opportunity to give your child a life that was separate from you, where they went about and did their business, but there wasn't that kind of suffering, and you chose the one in which there was suffering just for the sake of it, I think that would be problematic.
But Alex's argument is based on a false premise. His argument assumes that God doesn't suffer, and it assumes that we won't suffer at all after this life. I think God does suffer more than we can know, and I don't think it's forever unicorns and rainbows after we die either, because we're on track to become like him. So in the book of Moses, chapter 7, it says, well, he first beheld Satan, who veiled the whole face of the earth with darkness. Then beheld the righteous. And then it says, it came to pass that the God of heaven looked upon the residue of the people, so presumably this is the people that weren't righteous, and he wept. And Enoch said unto the Lord, how is it that thou canst weep, seeing thou art holy, and from all eternity to all eternity? So that was God the Father weeping. And we know that because he talks about the Son as a separate person to the one weeping. Suffering may actually be a universal standard of existence. The Bible talks about the suffering and sadness of God when he sees us turn from him. And as we read in the book of Moses, God cries over his children turning from him. To become like God and to do what he does, it's impossible to do so without suffering that is unimaginable to us. I suppose that at a certain stage of development of an eternal being, suffering becomes part of existence. But so does ever-increasing and indescribable joy, so don't worry, it's not all rain clouds. Now, here's the point. We don't just pass through this mortal realm of injustice now, to have rainbows and unicorns forever after, to sit on a cloud singing praises for a gazillion years. We pass through this mortal realm to enter the next realm, where we continue to learn, to grow, to experience joy, and yes, to suffer. Though we're not bound by mortality or tempted by Satan, so the suffering may not be the same. But even God can feel sadness. It's right there in Scripture. So us going out into this world of scraped knees and school bullies and failed math tests, it isn't just to give us a thick skin for our adult earthly life. It's to give us experience for our eternal good, for our eternal increase, for the next life. Parents choose to have kids despite the suffering that they'll undoubtedly endure because they know that it's one of the most rewarding and worthwhile things that a human can do in life. God, as our parent, he's offering to take us as far as we'll let him take us, even to become like him if we want to. And this life shows us a piece of what it's like to be him. Food for thought. This is Sort of Leben. Out.